In this video, I'm going to share with you the most important thing that I learned in my first year of copywriting. I'm going to tell you the biggest mistakes that I made that caused me to waste a lot of time and effort so that you don't fall into the same mistakes that cost me thousands of dollars in lost deals. So the biggest mistake that I made was using high volume generic outreach. When I first started, I thought that landing clients was just a numbers game. I thought that if I just sent enough outreach messages, someone would eventually say yes. So I followed the advice that I found online, which was to just use scripts and frameworks to send out as many cold emails or DMs as I possibly could. There were three main approaches that I would take when using these generic DM scripts and formulas. Some of the outreaches would be asking generic questions about the business, like, what's your biggest marketing challenge right now? This approach rarely works because business owners don't want to waste their time answering fake questions from strangers. And they may also be skeptical to share information with someone that they don't even know, because they want to protect their ideas and strategies. The other approach was where you would call a prospect and just pitch your copywriting services right off the bat in the first message without building any rapport beforehand. Business owners are naturally skeptical of unsolicited messages, especially when they lack personalization. Generic and non-personalized messages, especially messages containing links, can be scams, so a business owner is very unlikely to respond to a cold pitch. The third approach that I used was to offer vague promises, like telling the prospects that I could help them increase their sales or opt-ins. Making claims like this is very unconvincing because they're not backed by any specific insights, results, or concrete knowledge or experience. In hindsight, it was obvious why this approach was never going to work. These messages were impersonal, unoriginal, and just screamed spam. And to make matters worse, I was probably reaching out to people that pretty much every other copywriter was targeting, which were business owners that were already drowning in similar pitches. And the worst part was that I didn't even follow up with these outreaches. When I was a complete beginner, I just put no thought whatsoever in how I could stand out, and as a result my outreach was ignored and my efforts were wasted. Here's what happened after all that. After I had sent hundreds of outreach messages and got no responses, I was feeling very demoralized. I was starting to doubt whether copywriting could work or not, or if I was just incompetent, I was never going to make this work. I found that I would stop outreaching altogether for weeks and sometimes even months. I used to think that all the strategies and information online were just teaching outreach that wasn't even correct, and that all the information was just lies, and to a certain extent I was correct. Many copywriting gurus teach a long list of outreach methods just to bulk up their content or their YouTube videos, and to add content to their course material. In my experience, the truth is you only need one outreach method that works for you, and that's what I learned after this initial failure of mine. And this cycle of trying, failing, and temporarily giving up isn't something that was unique to me. I think it's safe to say that many other copywriters fall into the same trap. They follow the same high-volume outreach approach, get frustrated by the lack of results, and eventually quit altogether. If that sounds familiar, don't worry, there is a better way of getting clients as a copywriter. After realizing that generic scripts weren't working, I decided to try something called high-value outreach. So instead of sending a generic outreach message, I would write a piece of copy up front for the prospect, such as a sample email, a landing page, or even a sales page, and include that in my outreach message. Some of the sales pages I wrote were really long, over 3,000 words. Initially, this seemed like a game changer because I was getting some responses and some prospects even appreciated my work. But there was one massive downside. It was very time consuming to write these high value outreaches. For some of the prospects I was reaching out to, I would have to spend a long time researching their business and their offer and writing personalized copy for them. For those 3,000 word sales pages, I would sometimes spend 6 to 8 hours writing a single outreach message. And as you can imagine, you just won't hit the required numbers and volume of outreach messages to actually close clients at that rate. The worst part after all of that is that most of the prospects didn't even hire me. Sometimes they would just take the free sample and then ghost me, or they weren't even serious about hiring a copywriter in the first place. A good thing though is that this gave me a chance to practice writing a lot of copy, and because I was putting so much effort into the outreaches, I was more inclined to follow up with them and not let these leads fall through the pipeline. But like I said, it wasn't sustainable, and you need a better and more efficient system than high value outreach. So the turning point for me was when I realized that I was doing what everyone else was doing. I was following free advice on YouTube and targeting the same prospects as thousands of other copywriters. I knew that I needed a system that would get me more positive responses with fewer outreach messages. I needed a system that would help me strike a balance between quality and quantity, and help me avoid embarrassing myself with spammy or desperate messages. I needed a system that would save me from wasting time with prospects that were never going to be interested in the first place. That's what caused me to start my own prospecting system, which I call my prospecting SOPs, which stands for Standard Operating Practices. This system includes 3 key components. They are the free consulting outreach method, a structured follow-up habit, and a focus on quality over quantity. So as for the free consulting method, instead of pitching services outright, I would start by offering actionable advice tailored to the prospect's business. For example, I might point out a specific issue with the website copy and suggest a quick fix for it. This approach shows the prospect that I knew what I was talking about even before I mentioned my services. Unlike high-value outreach, this method didn't require me to write some samples up front for every single prospect. I just had to write an email demonstrating some value and expertise and a willingness to help. The second component was making follow-up a habit. Most deals are closed in the follow-up and not the initial outreach message, and that's especially true when you're dealing with high-level clients who are receiving tons of outreach messages per day. I developed a habit of following up with every prospect multiple times and used the omni-channel approach. So if I sent an outreach via email and they hadn't responded to the follow-ups, I would then message them through Facebook or Instagram. This kind of persistence is essential because most prospects will only respond after the 3rd or 4th message because they want to see if you're serious or not. The third component of my prospecting SOPs is quality over quantity. Instead of sending hundreds of messages per week, I used to focus on reaching out to a smaller number of highly targeted prospects. I would research each prospect thoroughly to make sure that they were a good fit for what I had to offer. When I started doing this, I was then able to write more personalized messages that stood out from the other outreaches they were receiving, and I got more positive responses. So the summary from my experience is, if you're just starting out in copywriting and you've tried or failed before, learn from my mistakes. Don't waste your time on high volume generic outreach, and don't burn yourself out with an unsustainable method like high value outreach. Instead, you want to focus on creating your own system that balances between quality and quantity, that helps you build trust with your prospects, and helps you to position yourself as a professional. You also need to make sure that you have a consistent follow-up habit. So the biggest lesson is that success in copywriting isn't about how many people you reach out to. It's about how effectively you connect with the right people. And once I made that shift, everything changed in my copywriting career. And if you implement it, I'm confident your situation will change as well. I've just shared a lot of my experience with you in this video, but there's still a lot more that goes into becoming a full-time copywriter. You need to learn the principles of persuasion and influence, the process of writing copy, how to structure your writing, find prospects, get their attention with outreach, follow up until you get a response, then close prospects on sales calls, and how to deliver your work to clients and get paid. I've mentioned this before, but I've looked back at my freelancing career and put together a guide for people looking for a direct route to becoming a copywriter. The guide covers everything that you need to know to add to your current income with freelance copywriting, and maybe even become a full-time freelance copywriter if that's what you want to do. And in the guide, I don't just stop after teaching you the very basics about marketing, copywriting, sales, and the other practical skills that copywriters need. I also give you the in-depth details from my personal experience so that you can turn the theory into real skill and get to a level where writing high converting copy and getting clients is second nature. There aren't many differences between a novice copywriter making no money and a full-time copywriter making thousands. The purpose of the guide is to help you make the small tweaks needed in the fastest time possible, and skip the time-wasting mistakes that most copywriters will fall into. And to do that, you'll get access to teaching material that I've written and compiled myself. This includes modules on pretty much every subject matter that you need to know in order to start making money with copywriting. And if you sign up with the link in the description, you'll get immediate access to everything that's currently in the course and access to whatever else is added in the future at no extra cost. And if you sign up with the link in the description, you'll get immediate access to everything that's currently in the course and access to whatever else I add in the future at no extra cost. Like I said, I share a lot from my experience on this channel, but if you want to get lifetime access to a structured copywriting guide that gives you all the knowledge you need and guides you on how to develop your skills, then you're welcome to enroll and level up your copywriting. The link to do so is in the description below. But other than that, thank you for watching. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and I'll see you in the next video.